Zubura that says, love SGDQ. $50 from Andrew204 says, haven't been able to watch as many runs live as I'd hoped, but big thanks to the team that gets replays up on YouTube so fast. Greetings from Australia. Another one of our incentives coming up you can put your donations towards is the songs that will be sung during the Kingdom Hearts remix run. So the top 3 will be sung. Currently, the winners are Can You Feel the Love Tonight from The Lion King. And second place is How Far I'll Go from Moana. That's the one I'm personally voting for. And third place right now is Reflection from Mulan. You could also put donations towards I See the Light from Tangled or Love is an Open Door from Frozen, as well as Evermore from Beauty and the Beast. So if you'd like to hear any of those wonderful songs sung during the Kingdom Hearts run, that's another place you can put your donations towards. During the run, we mentioned the TASBot playing Celeste run. Brief overview of that for anyone unfamiliar. TAS stands for Tool Assisted Speedrun. So that's where someone basically programs a bot or a script to complete the game as like superhumanly fast. And if you've never seen a task run of Celeste, it is something to behold for sure. So I definitely suggest getting that game unlocked. In addition to those incentives that you can put your bids towards, donations during the marathon also make you eligible to win a variety of great prizes. If you donate $150 or more total during the course of the whole marathon, you're entered to win an awesome 8th generation console plus gaming PC bundle. Any $10 or higher donation right now will give you a chance to win the Bound vinyl soundtrack as well as gauge drawings. $15 or more gives you a chance to win the Runbow original vinyl soundtrack. And $25 or more gives you a chance to win signed Runbow posters. And $50 or more gives you a chance to win a Caphead SGDQ 2018 banner. So lots of great prizes. You can find out more about those on the website. Couple more donations here. We've got $10 from Snow Monkey J-Lo. Says, you were doing great work. Thank you, Snow Monkey. $50 from Miss Mage that says, totally not skirking work to watch this. Good luck. Some of the other sponsors here at Games Done Quick include Humble Bundle. They sell games, ebooks, and other digital content through Pay What You Want bundles, as well as their Humble Store and Humble Monthly curated subscription service. Customers can choose how their payment's divided between the content creators, so the developers of the game, Humble Bundle itself, and a charity. And over $129 million has been raised for charities across the world since 2010 through Humble Bundle. You can check out their website at humblebundle.com. Just had to pause for a moment because I love that little clip from the Black Knight pinball machine where the Black Knight just taunts you into giving you his money. Another one of our sponsors is World9 Gaming. They provide PCs and arcades from PCs to arcades and consoles, old and new. They aim to provide the highest quality video gaming experience to events in the Midwest and beyond. They've got tournament expertise, a dedicated staff, an expansive collection of games and consoles, and they're ready to take your event to the next level. If you want more information about them, as well as booking information for upcoming events, check out world9gaming.com. They've also provided several of the board games that we're playing here at SGDQ, so thank you, World9, for that. Power Up Audio is an indie sound studio from Vancouver, Canada. They're handling our audio setup for Summer Games Done Quick here. They've worked on a bunch of your favorite indie titles, including stuff like Celeste, Into the Breach, and Crypt of the Necrodancer. Their entire team is here at SGDQ, and they're donating their time 24/7. All right, looks like we are ready to go for Bound with Chuckles here.
All right, guys, I'm chuckles825 running Bound for the PS4, and I believe we have a few special guests on call, Adam and Michael. How are you guys doing today?
Hello, hello.
Hello, greetings from Poland.
So Michael is the creative director and founder of Plastic, and Adam is a level designer and the main speedrun designer for the game. So pleasure having you guys on today. I'm glad we could make this happen.
Yeah, it's a pleasure on our side, but we are really happy that we've made it to GDQ like after 2 years after release, and it's like thanks to you and other speedrunners, Yasha Setsu, Angelus, and Asama. So we're really happy.
Well, I'm happy too. I'm really looking forward to get this going. So we can get started here in 3, 2, 1, go. So like any good game, Bound has you start out as an expectant mother walking slowly on the beach. But it's not going to stay that way for long. Pretty soon, both aesthetically and mechanically, we're going to change really quickly here. So I can't think of a better person to sort of give a synopsis and introduction to the game than Michael.
Okay, so Bound is a narrative platformer. It's a game about the fragility of family, and we were working on it with Santa Monica for around like 3.5 years. It happens on 3 planes: the real world, the imaginary world where most of the game happens, and the memories. The game is also playable in VR, which has a small but really dedicated cult of followers on Reddit. And yeah, let's see how how the run will go. All right, maybe I will say that the first level is really one of most intensive ones. I will let Chuckles talk a little bit about mechanics. We've spent a lot of time with community of speedrunners to make it like a good game for running.
Yeah, there's actually a ton of mechanics going on here, and I just gave myself plenty of time to talk about them. So the beginning of the game actually has one of the largest skips in the game. There's a 3-minute skip that you saw me do out of the window to be able to completely avoid the credits, intro, and tutorial. On top of that, I'm doing this huge wall skip to override the dance tutorial that you normally get. There's a large portion of this game that involves dancing, but that doesn't really affect us much from a speedrunning perspective. Majority of the time you're going to see me doing this, which is roll jumping. It's a combination of holding down the run button, which is L2, along with circle and X to perform a roll jump. That's just your all-around best movement option in the game. You can extend that in various ways through twirling, which is rotating the stick to correct yourself, and that also helps with things like wall jumping to get past areas that you wouldn't normally be able to, as well as kicks, which will help you get just a little bit further if you extend that beyond a roll jump and get you past some other obstacles that we'll talk about in a little bit here as we enter the first level. And beyond that, there's also edge jumping, which hopefully you're going to see me do here because it's kind of a risky trick, to be honest. Edge jumping, as you would guess, is when you extend a roll jump by jumping on the very edge of a platform or staircase or anything like that. But it's obviously very risky because Bound isn't really a traditional game in the sense of platforming. There aren't really any bosses or enemies. So your main obstacles are going to be just things that slow you down, like dying and deaths, because the reset animations for either a hard fall or just a bottomless pit can be pretty brutal.
Yeah, so basically it's designed in such a way that the first penalty for dying takes the longest, the second is shorter, and then it resets just like to make it immediate. It's like for casual players, if they fall often, then they don't get the penalty. But the first fall is the real penalty for runners.
I should also probably mention, chat may have already noticed, but this level's name shout for a reason.
Yeah. So, so basically, the game is divided into levels, but you can play it in a arbitrary order, and the story is then also told in a different order, and it also affects the runs because in each level there's a hazard or fear that we call it, which is a memory of the main character. And if you deal with the memory at the end of each levels, then this fear, which is right now represented as a scream of the big monster, disappears from the other levels. And because of that, it opens the paths and shortcuts for runners. So game has 120 ways to pass it, and we as developers don't know which path is the shortest. And Chuckles with other runners are still working on it. Maybe you will say if you are like confident that this path is the shortest.
Right, so it's always tough to say because speedruns are always evolving, but I think we got a pretty good handle on the route, from my opinion. Although I do have some ideas on ways to improve this, but they're not really possible at the moment without a little further discovery.
Yeah, so right now we are in the memory part, which actually tells most of the story of the game. Chuckles is like super fast in this area, so you probably will not get any story at all, and actually even spoilers. So that's good.
Yeah, the any percent of this run is kind of funny because for the majority of the game, story-wise, you're supposed to be going through and reliving your memories and conquering them and reflecting on them. But in the any percent, you're just sort of like, oh yeah, okay, I kind of remember that. Let's move on.
All right, so maybe because I was like talking most of the time, let's give Adam a chance. Maybe he will talk a little bit how he was designing the shortcuts on the levels.
Actually, the first important thing to notice is that the levels, I think that the first most important thing was this casual route that told the story, that set an atmosphere to the game, and later on we were adding additional shortcuts, or fear shortcuts as we call them. And yes, the biggest challenge was actually to hide this hardcore layer of the game from casual players. We didn't want them to see those shortcuts, to just enjoy the story and, for example, enjoy exploring later on, playing the game again.
Yeah, there were a little bit problems with the first release of the game. We had to patch it because some players and some streamers were actually going through the shortcut from the backside and getting a little bit stuck, but we cleaned this up with the patches. I know that it's a little bit controversial to work on a patches while the speedrunnings is like speedruns are happening, but I think that we were like having a good time with community, and there were no issues. Like there were some big cuts that we really didn't suspect to happen, especially in the first level.
Yes, that's a funny story because just after release, people discovered this shortcut you saw at the very beginning when Chuckles just jumped out of the window on a ledge, and he skipped half of the level that way. And I must admit I was conflicted about it at the beginning. I even considered patching it up, but I decided to reach to a few of our best speedrunners. That's how our contact with Chuckles, with Yashosetsu, Angelus, and Tazama started. And I asked them if they would like me to patch it up. By, of course, understandable, they preferred to leave it. So I suggested that maybe I should make it a bit easier, because it was at the very beginning of the run, it was very hard. There were many falls and restarts of the run at the very beginning. So I gave them some in-development screenshots, told that I wanted to make it a bit easier, and that's how we cooperated further, and guys even shared some tricks or routes further on. And before using them in speedruns that went into the leaderboards. So yeah, it was even cooperation on that level, and I am very humbled by such dedicated support, so thank you guys for that.
Oh, well, it's my pleasure. I'm really glad, honestly, because you see from a lot of developers that it's important to polish your game, but it feels like a lot of the times patches just purely affect... Oh boy, there we go. Patches just seem to purely affect speedrunners. So I was really happy to work with you guys on not only keeping some of these skips in, but incorporating them into the more intended route.
Okay, maybe I will talk a little bit about those parrots that we were just passing. They are inspired by Mario Galaxy, of course.
Yes, I was going to comment on that.
I'm like a very big fan of Mario, like all the franchise, and Mario Galaxy definitely has better mechanics than we have. It's like some people get stuck and orbiting like for like forever on that spheres, but we also patched it.
I also imagined that thinking yourself around like that would be very nauseous, potentially in VR. Do you want to go into a little more detail about the mechanics in the VR mode that we can't really see today?
Yeah, so we are really happy about the VR implementation. We also worked with the VR community on that because we had two patches. Like first was the initial VR version, which only has the stationary camera, which works a little bit like in Resident Evil games. And personally, I more like this mode because it's like nausea free. You really can play like the game for 5 hours and have no problems at all. But the players like really insisted to have the camera that follows the character, and there are people that really enjoy it and were happy that with our patch. The game in VR is really special because of the demo scene aesthetics that we can see like in those levels. We as Plastic come from the demo scene as there are our roots, and we wanted to share this aesthetics with the rest of the world. As for speedrunning in VR, there is a little thing that will probably be faster, because in those memory sequences that we will see like in a second, in VR you don't go like in a constant motion, but you teleport. And when you teleport, you can do it really fast, and there are no collisions with objects. So I'm pretty sure that VR memories are faster than like flat 2D screen memories. On the other hand, the rest of the game is probably slower. So we were thinking that if Speedrunner would change from 2D version to VR, just for the memories and would do it in the moment when the game loads, then probably it may affect the overall run, but it's like pretty experimental, I guess.
Yeah, there's also other interesting thing I remembered today, that cutscenes skip. They work a bit differently in VR, and I think they are longer or shorter, depending on if you are playing the game in VR or in 2D mode, because that's a technical limitations we had, that the cutscene can be skipped only to the last cut of the camera, and those cuts are different in VR mode.
Yes, that's for sure, because in VR, the cuts have just like a static camera, and we like move it around from one place to another, and some of them are shorter. So yeah, that's another thing that could be checked.
So as we're entering Steam here, I think Steam is probably one of my favorite levels just because of the amount of shortcuts it has and the amount that are unintended but still remain in the game. As you just saw, I did some twirling to extend the range that I can perform wall jumps on, and I'm about to do that again here as I get closer to the bridge. Surprisingly, these are the only locations I've found so far that have been useful in terms of this mechanic. Ooh,
Yeah, so
didn't quite
probably
make it there.
Adam will.
Yeah, Adam, we talked about this earlier in terms of patching, but could you maybe talk a little bit more about how you felt when you discovered some skips like this and working with the community on keeping them in the run?
It was mostly, no, not again.
Yeah.
but no, it was fun to see how you break the game in many ways that I never imagined you will, and some of these skips were fun to implement to this puzzle of level order we have, and I think that the most important thing we should say right now is that we finished patching the game. So right now it's as it is. You can break it however you like, and it's fine.
Yeah, I remember for me like the glitch in the end of this level was like really heartbreaking, and I was thinking that it should be removed because it's actually a traditional event box that it's bigger than it should be, and by sliding over a wall, the character like triggers the last sequence. So yeah, I I got used to it, and right now I'm really happy that we haven't touched it at all.
Well, I'm happy that you kept it in too, and I'm happy that I managed to pull that off without dying. But yeah, it's interesting because Steam is actually the only place in the game with a clip, and it's 2 clips back to back that only really save a few seconds, but it's pretty funny how it worked out. As we enter the ribbon ride here at the end of the level, I'd say this would be a good time for any donations you might have.
Sure thing. We've got $25 from Tilda. It says, I was pleasantly surprised to see Bound on the SGDQ schedule. It's one of the most beautiful games I've played. Good luck with your elegant run, Chuckles. Greetings from Norway. $20 from Jen Simpkins says, had to donate during Bound. Such a beautiful game and so good to finally see it run at GDQ. Good luck, Chuckles, and thanks to everyone helping run this event. We've also got $5 from Iggy Zig. It says, between the dev commentary and the game's visuals, I find the Bound run utterly mesmerizing. Fantastic job.
Yeah, that's definitely a key thing about this run. Even if you don't know anything about the game, it's just really great to watch. I was pretty mesmerized when I first played through it too. And to be honest, like we were talking about earlier with a lot of the hidden speedrun mechanics, I didn't even pick up the game knowing that it was speedrunnable at all. I just kind of wanted a nice game to play, and it was a pleasant surprise when I found all this tech.
Yeah, so recently there was an article in Edge magazine about speedrunning, and we were chosen also with Celeste, and I remember what the third was. but we were chosen because they really didn't suspect that Bound is a speedrunning game, and and it is actually designed for speedrunners because we got inspired by GDQ, and so basically we came from a demo scene, which is like a big community of creative people. Then we were doing actual PC benchmark, and we were working with benchmarking community. And after that, I was thinking that we need to like check like what other like digital communities are out there. And I was watching some streams from Games Done Quick, and I really loved like the feeling of the event. And I thought it's like we should try to do a running game, and that's how it started.
Yes, when I joined the team around 1 year before release, I was already in love with GDQ, and it was a fun experience to actually use all this knowledge you guys share every time and make a game with it.
Well, I'm glad we could make it come full circle here. Now I'm entering probably the hardest level for me, at least, in the game. There's just so many shortcuts, one after another. I just did a shortcut within a shortcut that directly warped me to the setup for a cutscene trigger skip. And then there's 2 more shortcuts coming up here immediately after that. Adam, how did you decide what was enough?
That's a very good question. First of all, we have these intentional sequence breaks. So this first shortcut by jumping through the trigger of a cutscene. In each level, there is a middle level cutscene which you can skip that way. And other than that, there are few shortcuts. There are smaller shortcuts, for example, and that was hard to balance, to be honest. I was trying to keep track of it with spreadsheets and a lot of data, but I never actually finished to complete it. And I'm still not sure which route is the fastest, or if I nailed it with too long or too short routes. So yeah, at some point I just needed to hope for the best and keep it that way.
Yeah, I remember that the 3 level that we are playing right now was really hard to research for speedrunners, especially like the ending, which requires a lot of precise jumps. Like from my perspective, it's like the when we were like deciding on trophies, we had like a hard time with it because I thought the trophies should be hard. And still we decided like to cut them down and like add additional 10 minutes for each of the run because they were really hard, and like Sony's QA has real problems with them, but in that QA team there was like a dedicated speedrunner that really loved to like find those shortcuts on his own. We of course prepared them like the whole sheet of those shortcuts, like how to get all the trophies, but still they had a hard time with those.
Yes, if you are a developer of a speedrun game, then remember to always test hardcore stuff with other players, because with trophies and speedrun overall, that was the only things we never focus tested here on site in Łódź in Poland, but we are focus testing everything else. So we were patching based on feedback from players a lot of things in the game, but I was adjusting the speedrun and trophy times to my own, and to be honest, at some point, 2 days before the deadline, Bonsai just came to me and said that maybe we should make those trophies a bit easier. And I remember we cut it 5 minutes. Now they are 5 minutes easier, the speedrunner trophy and 100% trophy.
Yeah, and we decided to make the cutscenes skip like with one of the patches, because a lot of people requested that. It was like quite an effort from the like tech side, because we had a really big bug after cutting those cutscenes with the memory, but in like the last day we fixed it and just like hoped that it will be fine, and it worked out. So we are happy that we've managed to make those cutscene skips, because it would probably drive some runners crazy after some time.
Most
if I
definitely.
may one more thing- if I may add one more thing, the only cutscenes you can't skip are those that you can skip with an intentional sequence break before. Otherwise, those sequence breaks would have no more sense, right?
Yeah.
So we're entering Plains now, which is the final of the main levels. This is probably one of the only levels where you're constantly descending, and it has a good mixture of the rotational physics along with a bunch of shortcuts and a mechanic that we haven't really seen much of previously, which is ribbons. There are a bunch of different types of ribbons in the games, but what I'm referring to specifically is fast falling on ribbons. Beyond being able to hold circle to descend quickly, you also get an extended jump if you completely descend from a ribbon, and you can jump immediately after that as well. So right now, I think I'm on, if I remember correctly, Adam's hardest skip in the game. I just skipped over the bridge section, which is funny because that's one of the only sections of the game. Normally everything's forming around you, but because we came at that from the backside using another shortcut, we're able to walk on that section that normally wouldn't be possible.
Yes, that's funny because you found the sequence break that sequence breaks the intentional sequence break, which this one sequence break was designed as the most hard one in the game, or I think at least. So yeah, that was funny to watch that. Oh, they found a way around it.
I'm glad we did, honestly, because I think the intentional one's a lot harder.
Yeah, from my perspective, I was really happy that it actually worked, that there is like one floating block in the game that you can jump on, because it's like from the programmer's perspective, it's really cool because it worked as a system, and we really didn't plan that it will be used in such way. So like, yeah, it's a perfect research.
I think interesting thing to notice about those routes that are not in the quickest speedrun is that we added with one of the patches race mode, random seed mode, something like that. So you can just start with a random seed, and you don't know which levels you will get. So you must just improvise on the fly. And we wanted. That was actually inspired also by races during GDQ. So I believe if a few people will share this random seed that one person, for example, decides on, then the rest will have the same order of levels, but all of them will find out which levels they will get during the run.
Yeah, it was designed like for the races, if you will like randomize the number just before the race, there is no possible way that you will know what's the sequence of the levels, and you need to like use all your knowledge, like what paths will open when, and try to win.
Yeah, I really appreciate a lot of the back-end mechanics, like set seeds. It's really helped extend the life of the game and the community. I kind of want to take this time to have a shout out to the French community. We mentioned them at the beginning of the run, but Setsu, Angel, and Azuma are all over in France, and they did a lot of the work on this game when it first came out. And I picked it up a little bit afterwards, but I definitely want to shout them out because they did a ton of discovery on this game.
That's right.
And just in terms of learning the game, I really appreciate the set seed option, as well as I know we have a ghost option as well, which not only is a record of your best time, like in other racing games or similar, but it also loops after a bit, I believe, which is really helpful in terms of learning a run. So I think that's a really great addition. I'm glad you guys could add that in.
Yeah, it's. I'm happy that you like it. It was like quite an effort. It's a good tool for beginner runners.
So we're coming up here on the finale. I won't talk too much about the story, but there is a final choice coming up after this last level. It's actually pretty interesting because the pretty much very last bit of platforming you do is a small skip, just like the very first bit of platforming we did was a skip. And this one, I won't say it's too difficult, but that'll probably jinx myself because it only saves like a second and a half, but if you mess it up, it wastes 30 seconds or so because you got to go back through this whole ribbon section. So hopefully I landed here.
The last ribbon of doom.
The finale ribbon, yes.
Yeah, we are like holding our breaths to see how it
All right, I got it. All right, so time will be coming up here in about 30 seconds or so after we make our final choice. And it's interesting because in terms of the final choice, the story is not linear, so you can interpret it in very different ways. So I really appreciate that option.
Yeah, it was like interesting because like people acted differently in the end. There was, like the experience was different for them. This was by design, and we're really happy that they shared.
Okay, and time right now.
Okay.
Thank you. All right.
How do you think, Bonsai? Should we announce something that maybe speedrunners don't know about?
I guess I was thinking to say that like dancing on the platforms speeds them up, but when I was seeing this run, I think that Chuckles already like has mastered that. So like dancing on all moving things like makes them a little bit faster.
Is that what you guys have been holding over my head this whole time?
Yes, it is.
Oh man, I knew about that for quite a while.
Oh,
That's really funny.
It's a bummer.
Right.
Yeah, in discussions, they were holding that they knew some trick for this game over me for the longest time, and I didn't know what it was, and I was so confused. That's good to hear. All right, guys, I'm really glad you could come on for the call. Do you have any final thoughts you want to leave off with?
Yeah, it's like right now I feel completely fulfilled. It's like after 2 years, we are at the GDQ, so yeah, another life achievement done. Thank you.
And from me, thank you, Chuckles, for making this possible. And I must say that watching Bound on GDQ was a little dream for me, so it came true. And of course, shoutouts once again to Yashasetsu, Angel Angelus, and Azama for their help with shaping this game post-release. And to everyone involved in GDQ, you are doing an amazing event for a great cause. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, guys. I'm really happy you could be on the call, and I'm really glad I got to make that happen because it's both a dream of mine as well to make this run happen at a GDQ. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Thank you kindly to those awesome devs and to Chuckles for that great run. Got a couple more donations here. Got $5 from Sato Sweet Home. It says, had to donate during the Bound run. I was so happy to hear it was getting a run this year. It is a great game, and I hope this gets more people to run it. $10 that says, "Greetings from Poland. Had to donate to show support for a game developed by fellow compatriots. Shoutouts to the runner and all the people in the room." Looks like we're ready for an interview regarding the Double Dragon block with J-Hobbs, L-Rock, and Sinister One.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. My name is J-Hobbs. I'm joined here by Sinister One, and we've got, wow, it is early in the morning, dude. L-Rock here. Wow, that's how you know. How much sleep have you guys gotten?
I made it.
That's how you know you got no sleep. How much sleep have you guys gotten?
Double Dragon's worth. Let's go there.
All right.
I second that.
It's pretty early. All right.
Why you're running the second one?
You guys are going to be running 2 different Double Dragon games in this upcoming little mini block we got going on. So why don't you guys give me, kind of the quick pitch of the Double Dragon series for anybody who's not familiar with it. As a connoisseur of NES games, I definitely am, but for anyone out there who doesn't know.
I mean, the thing about the series is it started in the arcade before the NES, but everybody just knows it as just one of the quintessential beat-em-up series. It's just a classic. It has very basic mechanics. It has really, really difficult enemy AI, and it's one of those games where no matter when the chips get you down, how much they're going to get you down, because they are going to. Every time you persevere and rise up, it's just always the most rewarding thing ever, because you beat that which is programmed to beat you.
Wow.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, they're very difficult games, but they're very rewarding, very fun, especially if you play co-op. Double Dragon 2 is a really great co-op game to play casually. You don't have to speedrun these games necessarily, but they differ from the arcade versions quite a bit, and there's a lot added, actually. I would say that they're in some ways better than the arcade versions.
Well, cool.
Can't
I mean, that was
disagree.
a pretty awesome pitch right there, honestly. You could sell that one. All right, well, let's start with Double Dragon 2. And Sinister, this game actually has a pretty interesting history with games done quick that you were telling me a little bit about before. You kind of just want to let everyone know about the history of Double Dragon 2?
It does, yeah. Double Dragon 2 was actually in the very first marathon, Classic Games Done Quick, back in 2010. It was run by yours truly. And it was also done in a few different categories, which one of them was a co-op race. You don't see those too often, so that was pretty cool. We did that in, I think, 2012. And then the last time it was run was in 2013, SGDQ 2013, 5 years ago. It was the first ever run of 1 player, 2 controllers, and that was also done by me.
So you're at the center of pretty much all of those, huh?
Yeah, not too many people run the game. The community's growing slowly, but yeah, it's still pretty small.
So how has the game evolved over the last 8 years since you ran it?
Honestly, it has. There are some new strategies. Some of the newer players have found some cool tech, but it's been a lot of minor optimizations because the game's fairly straightforward. These beat 'em up games, you do have to beat every enemy, and there's only so much you can do. So.
Okay, cool. Well, L-Rock, I want to ask you about Double Dragon, but also this isn't the only run you have in this marathon. In fact, you already had 1 run so far. So what's it like having multiple runs to prepare for?
Just double the grind.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Just get prepared to press buttons. That's all. That's primarily what I was doing in like a large majority of my free time and the short-term and long-term history leading up to this. I mean, I had a few marathons I was working on from both the gameplay end and the tech end, both of which I was doing like all these games specifically, especially after they got accepted. I was like, I had to play these games as much as possible to make sure that I know what I'm going to be doing once, it's front and center. So lots of that, and believe it or not, the games as they play aren't that dissimilar, but at the same time, the feel is. I can see why you would ask that question, because it can be a little off-putting. It's like, well, I just played this, so I had to play this now. It's like, well, I should. Did it work? Does it transverse? Let's find out. You just got to go, man. Like, it's just to the nose.
Well,
no other way to do it.
We'll see. How that plays off on the big stage.
Yeah. This week's run I had earlier was just incredible. Like, that was everything I've ever wanted in speedrunning, and now I get to cap it off with doing something that's insanely more difficult. So.
Well, that's awesome. I'm excited for it. And despite the early hour, we actually have a lot of people who are excited for it. So we're going to jump into a social media question here. Got one from your Zistra. I probably mispronounced that.
Zistra?
Who asked, what is the most difficult thing to learn when running these games? I'll leave this open to either one of you who wants to talk about it.
Spacing is always my big one. Spacing and the timing of your moves, because if you're throwing a move out and you're committing, you got to connect. Because the move I'm using the most is like a third of a second to impact. So
that's pretty long over.
It's a really long time. Yeah. It's a really, really long time. So that's always been the thing for me. Like you can't afford to make small mistakes in this run. They just don't happen. You either connect or there's a good chance that's just it. You know.
Yeah, for Double Dragon 2, I would say that it's the strongest special move, which is done in a 4-frame window. So that's pretty tight. You know, you have 1/15 of a second. You really got to be on point with that. You probably got to be able to hit it over 90% of the time. So really just developing that consistency with that move because it is used so much throughout the run.
Wow, that's awesome. All right, well, let's get into another one. We got one from @Bandon23 who asks, which boss is hardest in both Double Dragon games and why? So for your respective games,
I would say the final boss in Double Dragon 2. He was actually not even in the arcade version. He was added for the NES version only, and they made him pretty overpowered. So he's got a lot of HP, and he's got very fast movement. He's very strong.
And he's not even there to steal your coins either, your quarters. You know, they just felt like adding him.
Steal your pride.
Yes.
Elrock, how about you for Double Dragon?
For Double Dragon 1, it's the next to last boss. The last boss is essentially like just
your victory lap.
Home plate, yeah. But for the next to last boss, his most damaging attack takes around 35% of your health. And if he hits you with it, he gets to set himself up to do it again. So, and then he causes lag on top of that, and it's really, really bad. Making quick work of him is my #1 goal by the end of it. Like, if I can do that, we're good.
Well, cool. I'm excited to watch both these runs as somebody who's not very familiar with Double Dragon and stuff. And thanks for chatting with me, guys. I'm going to go ahead and actually throw it back up to the host so we can get ready for Ghoul02's run of Catherine.
Thanks for that interview, J-Hob, Sinister, and L-Rock. Couple more donations for our previous bound run there. We got $10 from Wraith that says, thanks for being up early, Chuckles. Your dedication to the cause is quite admirable. Let's save some lives. $10 from Taberu says, I've watched GDQ for many years. I'm still a student without a job, but I think it's the right moment to finally donate, as the game being played, Bound, is one developed by my brother Adam. Love the event and cheers. Cheers, Taberu. We've also got $100 from Arboretic. They say, I don't know what I'm looking at, but I like it. That was pretty much my reaction to Bound as well. We are Summer Games Done Quick, raising money for Doctors Without Borders. We've got a bunch of awesome sponsors that help us out with this event, including Devolver Digital. They're purveyors of fine digital entertainment from indie artists worldwide. You can check out their website at devolverdonequick.com for a limited time Devolver Done Quick bundle on Steam that includes awesome games like Titan Souls, Enter the Gungeon, High Hell, Classic Redux, Minute, and Shadow Warrior. Another one of our sponsors is Tokyo Attack. They provide awesome arcade equipment across the country. Raj of the Garage is the largest Japanese arcade event in America, and that'll be hosted by Tokyo Attack, featuring 24-hour gaming, over 100 import arcade machines, more than 18 tournaments, as well as a casual fighting game room. And it's an event you aren't going to want to miss. So you're going to find out more at Raj